Welcome to my favourite kind of CareersLab episode where I get to answer your questions, 7 of them in all. They're lined up, they're ready, and they're definitely appreciated. I can't wait to see what you have in store for me. But first, a quick coffee. Okay, so while that's brewing, let's go ahead and take a look at our first question. How will the no-detriment policy affect our employability? So taking no detriment to mean a student's grades can only go higher or stay the same, I'm guessing the question behind your question, Rosie, might be how are employers going to differentiate between so many graduates emerging with relatively stronger grades? If I've got it right, grades are one tool recruiters use to differentiate candidates, especially right at the early stages of recruitment. Although this has been softening a little, with this chart showing the downward move in employers using a 2-1 as a cutoff. At the same time, graduate recruiters have been using more of their own tools, so tailored assessments, psychometrics, and so I'd suggest that a no detriment policy will potentially simply accelerate that trend we're already seeing, especially among the larger graduate recruiters. While for many other graduate recruiters, I'm not 100% sure that no detriment will be on their radars. I'm not hearing employers saying much about it, Rosie, and certainly no indication that they're viewing grades from this graduating cohort any differently to previous years. So with all these factors combined, Rosie, I see no detriment as having a negligible effect on employability at most. But I'd love to know what you think, and thank you so much for sending in this really important question. Okay, next up, let's go for this anonymous envelope. My summer internship got cancelled and rescheduled for summer 2021. Can I mention it in my CV anyway? I'm applying for master's courses. First, I'm sorry to hear about the postponed internship. I hope it hasn't affected your overall plans too much. Now, in normal times, I wouldn't necessarily recommend ever including anything on your CV that hasn't yet happened. But these are unusual times, and so I think if you've got a postponed but confirmed internship offer, I would tend to recommend putting that in your CV, because internships, and even postponed ones, act as a signal demonstrating your employability to the admissions tutor. Now, employability tends to be a big deal for admissions tutors because it's a significant part of how master's programs are ranked in league tables. So yeah, by all means show them you're a good prospect on the employability front. In terms of how, I think something like this works really well, and definitely check out my video on personal statements for great examples of master's applications. Links in the description box below. Okay, next up, let's go for Yasmine. How do I answer the question, what are your salary expectations in an interview? Yasmine, great question. I like giving a salary range with one particular caveat. Let's say you're going for a particular role that tends to be advertised for between 24,000 and 38,000. I'd maybe predefine a range in the upper half of that to ensure you're not selling yourself short. And I might say, sure, my salary expectations would be north of 30,000 to reflect the value that I could bring with my skills in X, Y, and Z. Excited to potentially help with company projects like A, B, and C. I'm keen to bring that value to organisation X, and it's certainly something I'm open to chatting about. Yasmine, I'd definitely recommend role-playing and practicing this with someone until you get comfortable saying this. It's definitely a skill to be learned, and a UCL careers appointment can help you practice. It's so important to communicate your worth and get paid your worth. And the earlier you get used to having those conversations, the more handsomely it pays off in the long term. Oh, and you definitely shouldn't worry about potentially pricing yourself out of the market, because if they want you, they want you. And in the rare occasions where salary might be a genuine problem, they'll typically open up a salary negotiation discussion because you'll have been so open and approachable in your manner of communication. Good luck, Yasmine. Go get your worth. Okay, next up is Filip, and he asks, can you take a master's in finance or business after studying natural sciences, which includes physics and maths? Filip, yes. A master's in business or indeed management typically has super wide entry requirements, and so you'll never have a problem with a natural sciences degree. Finance masters tend to have slightly narrower entry requirements because they're more mathematical in nature, and looking at UCL's entry requirements, you should be fine with natural sciences, Filip, especially with your exposure to maths and physics as part of your degree, but you definitely want to emphasize any mathematical techniques and calculation-based software like MATLAB or Excel that you've had exposure to. And one last thing, Filip, I always recommend phoning the listed program administrator because they're motivated to give you honest answers to any questions you might have. And if they like you, well, I've known of you to give extra application insights. Good luck, Filip, and thanks for a terrific question. Okay, next up, let's go for an anonymous question. I had poor health for a period. How do I show this on my CV? I'm so glad you asked this because it's so easy to feel alone with this question. I can absolutely assure you that graduate recruiters and recruiters in general are used to seeing gaps due to health conditions. It's really not as uncommon as you might think. So how do you show this on your CV? Well, with honesty. A simple and professional addition to your CV saying something like studies interrupted, health concerns in 2018 works really well. I wouldn't look to go into any real detail such as the health condition itself, whether it's recurring, chronic or a one-off. A, because you never know where your CV might end up, and B, that health condition, should you choose to disclose it, should be part of a nuanced and sensitive discussion later on during the recruitment process. All the very best, and thanks again for asking such an important question. Okay, we're down to the last two. Let's go for Malithi, who asks, how can students get involved in UCL's ongoing research projects as research assistants? Malithi, great question, and the answer is somewhat dependent on what kind of research you might want to get involved in, because it's a significantly more challenging time at the moment for researchers who can't access their physical equipment or those whose research requires physical proximity. I recommend proceeding with sensitivity, Malithi. So once you've identified the researcher you potentially want to help, and you can use departmental pages like this, writing an email communication is showing willing, clarity on what skills you have and how you could help remotely, while showing sensitivity and patience. All the while potentially keeping your expectations low, Malithi, because researchers are adjusting and readjusting according to changes in the current situation. That said, approaching with helpfulness and kindness is a great way of potentially getting access to some of the live research going on at UCL. Good luck, Malithi. Last but definitely not least, we have Martina, and she asks, what can we do during this quarantine to improve our employability? Martina, such a great question, and I'm going to direct you to 3 resources, all linked in the description box below. 2 of those are blog posts written by my colleague Nicole, which are rich in ways to develop your employability during this time, and also my coronavirus careers Q&A video. The 3rd question breaks down exactly what you could do in relation to your career goals. Definitely check them out, Martina, and all the very best in developing your employability. Well, some seriously amazing questions there, and heartfelt thanks for sending all of those in. Please know that you can continue sending in your brilliant questions to feature in future videos, as well as letting me know what content you'd like to see and giving any insights that you might wish to share with other students and viewers. You can reach me at careers.marketing@ucl.ac.uk. And I'm going to close this week with a student insight that comes in from Jorge. He's a current master's student, and his approach is to send off 3 applications for every 1 rejection received. Jorge, I love that sentiment. It's such a great way of keeping that all-important momentum, and I think that's going to help a lot of people. So that's it for this bumper episode, and if you have exams or assessments coming up, then I wish you the absolute best of luck. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time.